Authorities say Jones had been under surveillance after Toledo police alerted surrounding agencies of his possible whereabouts. His daughter, Kaymani Latigue, was found dead inside an abandoned home in Toledo, with the coroner ruling her death a homicide caused by multiple deep cuts to her neck. Jones, who had removed her from her home without consent, was identified as the last person seen with her before she vanished. Investigators have not yet disclosed why he was in possession of a walkie-talkie at the time of his arrest. The Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation is now reviewing the officer-involved shooting as the case unfolds. Chapter 2: The Secret of the Itch. The next day, Murat was discharged, but the itch didn't fade, it worsened. When he pressed on the wound, he felt a faint warmth, as if something moved beneath his skin. On the bus home, a child grabbed his hand and instantly recoiled. "It hurts," the boy said, rubbing his palm. Murat ignored it, eager to rest at home. But that night, the itch became unbearable. In his sleep, he scratched until his nails tore his skin. By morning, the wound had doubled in size. Chapter 3: Silent Spread. Within a week, strange things began happening in Murat's apartment building. Neighbors were constantly scratching their hands, muttering restlessly. One evening at the market, the cashier scratched her hand so hard that flakes of skin fell to the counter. On TV, the first reports appeared. An unexplained itching outbreak is spreading nationwide. Health authorities urge the public to remain calm. Murat felt a growing fear, and something else, a strange satisfaction. The bigger the wound grew, the faster people around him seemed to itch. It was as if the wound was a center, and he was the carrier. Chapter 4: Losing Control. 2 weeks later, the city had descended into chaos. People attacked each other in the streets, tearing at their skin. Some had gouged out their own eyes. Hospitals were overflowing. Police had lost control. The itch wasn't just physical. It caused bursts of rage, sudden violence, uncontrolled aggression. Now, when Murat walked outside, no one wanted to touch him. But anyone he touched didn't stay the same. Chapter 5: Final Stage. One night, among hundreds fleeing the city, Murat walked calmly. He wasn't escaping. The wound had consumed his entire arm, veins turning black. His eyes were bloodshot, his breath heavy. The itch had spread through his entire body, but there was no pain, only power. Later, it would be revealed this wasn't a disease, but a biological weapon. But the virus had evolved beyond control, and Murat, the first carrier, would be remembered in history, though he himself would never see it. He had already fallen into the endless, dark comfort of the itch. Chapter 6: The Quarantine City. The city was officially under quarantine. Military checkpoints sealed every road, but inside, hell reigned. Burned-out cars littered the streets. Shattered glass crunched underfoot. Graffiti covered the walls. Itchy. Murat felt his body changing. His veins were black, his skin cold. Yet he could feel something else. He could sense when others were itching before it began. It was like a web in his mind. Each new infection lit up in his brain like a spark. Chapter 7: The laboratory's secret. One night, Murat saw a military convoy attacked by frenzied civilians. Before one of the vehicles exploded, documents spilled onto the road. He grabbed one. On the cover, in red letters, Project K-47, Dermonerve virus, Carrier Alpha. Reading further, he discovered the truth. The virus was designed as a battlefield weapon to incapacitate enemies. During testing, it had gotten loose, and the first test subject, after a traffic accident, was Murat himself. Chapter 8: The Hidden Path of Infection. The virus didn't just spread through touch. Microscopic skin flakes carried it through the air. Anywhere Murat walked, sat, or touched became a new infection point. Hospitals had turned into warehouses of corpses. The few remaining soldiers debated burning the city to the ground to stop the spread. Chapter 9: The Itchers. The infected went through 3 stages. The itch, a mild discomfort in the palm or wrist. The deep scratch, people clawed at their skin, eyes bloodshot. The change, veins turned black, minds clouded, control lost. Murat was already at stage 3, but somehow he still had his mind. The files called this Carrier Alpha, capable of consciously controlling the spread. Chapter 10: Alpha's Choice. Murat realized he had no intention of stopping the virus. To him, other humans were simply hosts. He entered a shopping mall. Chaos ruled inside. People clawed each other to death. Murat didn't need to touch them anymore. The virus seemed to carry on his scent alone. And in that moment, he understood. This wasn't an outbreak. It was the beginning of a new world. Chapter 11: The Escape. The military finally ordered a full evacuation, or so the public was told. In reality, they were relocating high-ranking officials while sealing the rest of the population inside. Murat stood on the rooftop of an abandoned hotel, watching helicopters hover over the burning skyline. The itch inside him pulsed in sync with the screams below. Somewhere beyond the city, the wind carried flakes of dead skin, each a tiny seed of the dermonerve virus. The infection was already outside. The quarantine was a lie. Chapter 12: Collapse of the Perimeter. The quarantine perimeter failed in less than 72 hours. It wasn't an explosion or a breach in the walls. It was the wind. Microscopic flakes of infected skin drifted beyond the barricades, landing on farmland, forests, towns. First came the itch, then the rage, then silence. News channels broadcast the same footage over and over, soldiers shooting into swarms of scratching civilians, only to be dragged down themselves. In rural areas, whole villages vanished in a day. By the end of the week, 30% of the country showed signs of infection. Chapter 13: Murat's Awakening. Murat no longer needed food or sleep. The itch wasn't pain anymore. It was a rhythm. He realized it was guiding him. Every spark in his mental web told him where new infections had taken root. He didn't walk randomly anymore. He moved with purpose. Every step took him toward the densest clusters of survivors. His reflection in a shattered shop window showed blackened veins spreading across his face, eyes a deep crimson. His wound was no longer a wound. It was an open, pulsing mass, like the core of some alien hive. Chapter 14: Operation Scorched Sky. Far away in a hidden military bunker, world leaders and scientists debated the final option. Operation Scorched Sky, a targeted firestorm across infected zones, burning everything down to the soil. But intelligence reports revealed something alarming. Carrier Alpha appears to coordinate infection patterns. This is not random spread, it's strategic. They didn't understand. Murat wasn't just surviving the virus, he was the virus. Chapter 15: The Hive Mind. On the 20th day of the outbreak, Murat stood on the roof of a collapsed stadium. Below him, tens of thousands of infected gathered silently, their blackened veins glowing faintly in the dark. They didn't speak. They didn't move until he did. When he raised his hand, they all raised theirs. For the first time, Murat spoke to them, and they heard him without sound. We are not sick. We are evolving. The swarm roared. Chapter 16. First Global Breach. The virus reached overseas not through travelers, but cargo shipments. In port cities, dock workers began scratching within hours. Ships carried the flakes to every major harbor in the world. Within a month, infection appeared on every continent. Governments collapsed one by one. Borders became meaningless. Chapter 17. The Last Broadcast. The final human news broadcast lasted only 3 minutes. This is not a disease you can cure. This is not a war you can win. The carrier is everywhere. Then static. From that point on, the only signals in the air were silent pulses from Murat's growing hive network. Chapter 18. The new species. Murat's body was no longer human. His skin was a shifting, darkened texture. His wound had become a living organ that pulsed with every breath of the infected. When he walked, they followed. When he itched, they spread. And when he smiled, the world screamed. The old world ended not with an explosion, but with the sound of nails on skin, billions of them, scratching in unison. Chapter 19. The Last Cities. Only 3 human strongholds remained: Istanbul, London, and a hidden base somewhere in the Arctic. Eve survivors wore Murat no longer walked among his swarm. He float in their mind. In Istanbul's tunnels, Commander Selene led the largest resistance cell left in Europe. They had one goal. Selene's team discovered something horrifying. The virus wasn't just spreading, it was mutating. Infected, no. Chapter 22. The Hive Core. Deep inside the ruins of Ankara, Murat sat upon a throne of twisted metal, the hive core pulsing in his chest like a black sun. Selin was dragged before him, helmet torn away. Selin, you're not human anymore. Murat, neither will you be soon. He reached out, placing his infected hand against her face. The itch began instantly, crawling beneath her skin. Chapter 23. Collapse. The resistance launched their final weapon, a massive EMP warhead designed to disrupt Murat's neural link. When it detonated, the swarm screamed and fell still. For a moment, Murat staggered. Blood poured from his eyes. The connection faltered. Selene broke free and drove a blade straight into the hive core. Chapter 24. Mutation Protocol. But killing Murat didn't stop the virus. His body dissolved into a swarm of microscopic spores, each one carrying his consciousness. Across the world, infected dropped dead, then rose again, their movements sharper, faster, more coordinated. Selene realized too late. Murat had uploaded himself into every single infected body. There was no central target anymore. Chapter 25. The New World. Decades later, Earth was unrecognizable. Forests of black-veined trees pulsed like living lungs. Oceans shimmered with the virus's glow. Pockets of humans still lived, not free, but allowed to exist, like livestock. Above it all, the hive spoke in one voice. Billions of mouths moving in unison. We are the only future. And somewhere in every heartbeat, the itch remained. Final chapter. The Last Itch. The sky above what was once London glowed an unnatural orange, thick clouds swirling like smoke from an endless fire. The streets were silent, save for the faint sound of fingernails on skin, the heartbeat of the hive. Seelan, the last known uninfected human, moved through the ruins with a cracked respirator and a half-loaded rifle. She had been running for weeks, never staying in one place long enough for the swarm to close in. But now, she had nowhere left to go. A figure emerged from the mist, tall, skin translucent, veins glowing black like molten glass. Murat. He didn't walk. He seemed to flow toward her, the ground cracking beneath each step. Murat, you've run long enough. Céline, I'll never be part of you. Murat, you already are. You just don't feel it yet. She raised her rifle and fired, but the bullets passed through him as though he were smoke. The air grew heavy. Her skin began to crawl, the first itch blooming in her palm. She dropped the rifle, clawing at herself as Murat stepped closer. Murat, the itch is not your enemy. It's your truth. Céline fell to her knees, screaming as the black veins spread across her arms. Her eyes clouded over and her breathing slowed, then matched Murat's perfectly. In that moment, the last free human mind dissolved into the hive. The city erupted in a sound like billions scratching in perfect unison, a sound that would never end. Far above, the clouds parted, and for the first time, the entire earth could be seen pulsing with the same black-veined light. There was no resistance now, no war, no humans, only the hive.